So what is an angel, or what are the angels? Well, let's discuss. The cherubim were terror birds. We tamed a bunch of them, we used them as beasts of burden, and then we ate them into extinction. God did not take them from us, we killed them all. So what are the Nephilim? Nephilim are mammoth. We tamed a bunch of them, we used them as beasts of burden, we then ate them into extinction. God did not take them from us, we killed them all. So what is a cherub? Well, this speaks of our character. A cherub is a little boy who's been castrated to never enter manhood. It's a very sad thing. It happened way too often. That's a cherub. So, what is an imp? Well, it's just a little monkey. It doesn't really count as an angel. I just want to throw that one in there. So, what is a seraphim? A seraphim could be in reference to an anteater, as the golden hind is also reference to a giant type of echidna type anteater. But a seraphim is a holy warrior. He would wear a blade strapped to his his arm, so he could stab you. He would have blades all the way down his arm, so he could slash you, and he'd have blades all over his body. He would be able to pick a blade off of anywhere and throw it at you or stab it into you. He would never try and hurt you badly. He would never try and take your life or give you a mortal wound. He did not want to break the covenant with God, so he would only try and maim you or disable you. He would not try and take your life. That was a seraphim, and that was the greatest of holy warriors. The seraphim rode Ophanim. Ophanim were a type of siegecraft that you would spin up like a gyroscope, and then, like running a team of horse away from the thing, spin up the wheel, and then run it into battle. You'd light it on fire, jump off at the very end, and it would fling off and hit like a pyramid or a wall or an army of troops. The Ophanim were just a siege weapon. So, understanding what is going on with the angels. So now we're going to discuss the archangels. Abraham of Ur had entered Egypt and embarrassed Egypt. They started following their deities. So the deity of Abraham was introduced into Egypt and installed at the Enid. The Enid put at a 10 at the top of the pyramid Metatron, the sun disk. So it was just a giant mirror that reflected light and could guide people and was used as communication. But it itself was worshipped at a certain point. While it was only meant to be a reference and a duplication of the tree of good and evil and the tree of knowledge, it became heavily corrupted after a while. And Egypt fell back into becoming a slave state and a horrible empire after Abraham had left and passed from the world. So the seven archangels, St. Michael of the Anatite culture, Raphael, the Elamite from Iran and Iraq, Negral from Turkey, Chemosh's grandfather from Palestine, and a few others like Enoch, the Jew who was working at the time. Azazel had refused to bow to the sun disk, calling it an idol and no longer in reference to Adam. He did so, and he got punished very, very badly for it, and a bunch of others did as well. You have the Gibborim. The Gibborim are basically the figures that were put on the pyramids. They are in reference to the Knights of Camelot of an age before. They are in reference to Ninurta and everybody else who was a great individual in the footsteps of God. It could have been a male or female, so long as they were doing great things, great works in the past. And that was all the Gibborim were. You then have the Rephaim, and the Rephaim are a bunch of statue worshippers. So the statues are their giants. They just sit there and sit still. That's the angel that they're worshiping. And there's a bunch of these individuals that will fight a fight to protect and to worship the statue alone and no longer the figure that was represented in the statue. The Gibborim, again, represent the thrones. So the best of the Gibborim are the throne lords. They're the best who were the closest to the footsteps of God, or the right hand, left hand kind of thing of God. You then have your guardian angels, and the guardian angels are just patron angels of little tiny city-states or specific classes of type like charity. The minions were a little bit higher up, so it could be a dominion of charity where you would be a little bit higher up. But the patron saints or the patron deities of certain little cities could also be considered angels. They're just guardian angels. And in a lot of types, they were just individuals who did one thing of great worth or great value for that little tiny area, and not like a throne who commanded an entire nation into greater good works. So In respect to what the Gibborim were, you had the Aeneid. They were a bunch of figures. You had a 10 at the top that was in reference to Adam. A moon or a men was actually in reference to the individual who was the Com, the kingdom of Com, so the land of daily bread, that was actually an occurrence before Jupiter, before the Titans ever walked the world. And you then had Ra, who was an individual who was the person who first installed dominated courts. And Osiris was considered the lord of the underworld. So the lord of the underworld was, it had arranged a funeral process going through Osiris, and these were the Duat. And there was the Grigori, who were the watchers, who were in respect to the priesthoods, the museums, and the ways of law and literature and culture of Egypt before it had become corrupt, and were also with the seven Sabiti, the seven archangels, when they rebelled against the Egyptian hierarchy. So the Grigori are also good individuals, as the Rephaim were basically mercenaries working for Egypt. Egypt had a military that would, like Ptah was in the south. The Aeneid had a nun or a mun at Thebes, and then you had Ra and you had Sekhet. So that was the four branches of the military at the time. So otherwise, what other angels are there? There are the Grigori, the Nephilim, the Seraphim, and then you have the Hasdiel and the Zadkiel. The Hasdiel and the Zadkiel are individuals who have transgendered. They are male to female or female to male in attempt, and of course can't get all the way there. Now, they are victims of a hive mind mentality brought about by criminal hypnosis taking over an entire empire and it being hypnotically run. And they are the moral ones who fight against that and have a type of ascension that they understand their morality better and they understand themselves better, and then know that they have kind of been hurt but still do good works despite the fact that they have been destroyed that way, like an adult cherub. So in respect to the angels, they are individuals of great worth. They are holy warriors. They are people of unique wisdom. And at the same time, you have the good figures of the Gibborim. So Anubis was an individual who went all the way to Australia, came back with the thylacine Tasmanian tigers, and trained them to be types of soldiers. Amut was a type of tapir, a giant marsupial tapir from Australia, that was once again brought back. And this was a common practice because of Gnum and the idea of a menagerie or an actual stock there that they were trying to get every species and domesticate them. And the progress continued throughout history, and it corrupted every once in a while, but that was the general principle of Gobekli Tepe, or Gobekli Tepe. Gobekli Tepe. And so that was Gnum, like that was the general menagerie going on, and it was actually set up by one of the incarnations of Vishnu. Now this is a little bit separate, but in effect they were all the Gibborim. So I mean, like the stories of old were the greater individuals of old were the Gibborim and were of a type of angel because you would pray to them in hopes of wisdom or guidance, and then that was the general form of them. So while Abraham helped form the Aeneid, technically, the idea of the archangels had to go against them. And so you have other angels that pop up that are just helpers and individuals of wisdom and greater intent to know the stories and to be able to use those lessons to guide in wisdom. And in general, those are your types of angels. If I missed one, please write it down in the comments and I will try and mark it down and tell you what it was.